Top 10 Strongest Air Forces in Africa 2021. Hello Explorers, welcome to another informative video presented to you by Explorer and thanks for watching. An Air Force, in the broadest sense, is a national military branch that primarily conducts aerial warfare. More specifically, it is the branch of a nation's armed services that is responsible for aerial warfare, as distinct from any army or navy. The strength and power of the country lies in several aspects, including its military power, soft power, as well as its air force. The air force of a country represents both the human and armory, as well as the air power of a country. With a strong air force, a country is able not only to defend itself, but also control even the affairs of some countries around it. Countries like China, the US, the UK are feared or respected depending on which party is at stake because of their air force strength. In Africa, we also have air strongholds, countries which by their air force strength, not only they have a remarkable imprint when touched, but are feared by many of its neighbors. Hence, in this video, we shall examine 10 of the African countries who currently hold such power. The Air Force strength ratings are based on several factors which cover the number of personnel, chemical, biological, radiological or nuclear weapons or WMDs, armory, tanks, technological stamina, budget, fuel availability, fighter jets, logistics, flexibility, and much more, which makes them a military power to reckon with and not messed with in any conflict. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. Number 10. Libyan Air Force. The Libyan Air Force, despite experiencing a lot of crises in the last decade, including the 2011 revolution, maybe despite or as a result of it, made the nation's air force to stand out amongst its peers, to being amongst the 10 strongest air forces on the continent. The Libyan Air Force in 2010, before the Libyan Civil War, had a personnel strength estimated at 18,000, with an inventory of 374 combat-capable aircraft operating from 13 military air bases in Libya. Since the 2011 civil war and the ongoing conflict, multiple factions fighting in Libya are in possession of military aircraft. The Air Force was first established as the Royal Libyan Air Force in September 1962, equipped with a small number of transport and trainers. But from 1970, a significant expansion of the Air Force took place, with a large number of Soviet and some French combat aircraft being purchased. They currently have over 121 helicopters, 600 aircrafts, and a defense budget of over $800 million. Number 9. Angolan Air Force. The National Air Force of Angola, or FANA, is the air branch of the armed forces of Angola with an inventory of more than 300 aircraft. It is one of the largest air forces in Africa. FANA follows a Russian or ex-Soviet organizational model, with its air units being aviation regiments, each one including several squadrons. To each of the 6 aviation regiments corresponds an air base and also a pilot training school. Located in South African region and ranked 7th largest in Africa according to the population census, it is however currently the 9th strongest air force in Africa in 2021. The Angolan defense budget is well over $4 billion and an inventory boasts of over 300 aircrafts, 80 fighter jets and about 15 attack helicopters, just to name a few. Number 8. Tunisian Air Force. The Tunisian Air Force is one of the branches of the Tunisian Armed Forces. The Tunisian Air Force was established in 1959, 3 years after Tunisia gained its independence from France. It took deliveries of its first aircraft, 8 Saab 91 Saphirs, in 1960, later to be complemented by further Saab 91 Saphirs. The Tunisian Air Force entered the jet age in 1965 with the purchase of 8 MB326Bs and then 5 MB326LTs. In 1969, the country received 15 more Sabres, 1974 and 1978, more Warriors and 9 SF.260C were delivered for basic training. Since 1995 to date, they have acquired several other machinery and armory to fortify the force. With over 154 aircrafts and up to 4 UAVs, the Air Force should not be overlooked when it comes to defense. The Tunisian Air Force helps internally and externally and are ranked 8th strongest air force in Africa in 2021. Number 7. Morocco Air Force. The Royal Moroccan Air Force (RMAF) is the fourth branch of the Moroccan Armed Forces. They participated in the Moroccan-Algerian border conflict in 1963, known as Sand War, in which it had modern strike aircrafts, whilst Algeria had none. The Moroccan Air Force was formed on November 19, 1956 as the Aviation Royale Chérifienne, and its modern installations were based inherited from France, the United States and Spain. The first acquisitions of this newly formed Air Force were 6 Moran Saulina MS 500 Crickets, 3 Max Holster MH1521, Brownstar transport aircraft, 2 big crafts, twin Bonanzas, a de Havilland DH.114 Heron, and a Bell 47G helicopter. Currently, with about 323 aircrafts in the arsenal, The Moroccan Air Force is ranked 7th in the table of Air Force metas in 2021. Number 6. Kenyan Air Force. The next on the trail of strongest air forces in Africa is Kenya, who are currently ranked 6th in Africa. The Kenyan Air Force is the National Aerial Warfare Service branch of the Republic of Kenya. The main air base operating fighters in Laikipia Air Base in Nanyuki, while Moi Air Base in Estiag, Nairobi is the headquarters. Other bases include Forward Operating Base Mombasa, FOB Mandera, FOB Wajir, and FOB Nyeri, which are mainly used for helicopters and small planes. The Kenyan Air Force files over 24 FFE/F Tiger II fighters, a dozen Tucano trainers, a dozen Y-12 transport aircrafts, half a dozen G120A basic trainers, several dozen MD-500 helicopters, and also a small number of Pumas and Mi-17s. Recent acquisitions include AW139 AS350, FENNEC UH/1H helicopters, H124M Fennec, MD-530FS, and C2J's Spartan transports. In 2017, Jordan donated 2 confirmed AH-1 Cobra attacks helicopters for the Air Force, and these, together with the Army's 50th Air Cavalry helicopters, are controlled by the Joint Helicopter Command based at Embakasi Garrison. This has enabled the Air Force to deploy their personnel to both national and worldwide peacekeeping missions. Number 5. Nigerian Air Force. Even being one of the most populous countries in Africa, the Nigerian Air Force is currently ranked 5th strongest air force in Africa, with aircraft strength of over 300. The Nigerian Air Force is the youngest branch of the Nigerian Armed Forces and one of the largest in Africa, consisting of about 15,000 personnel and aircrafts including 8 Chinese Chengdu F-7s, 13 Dassault Dornier Alpha jets, 3 JF-17 Thunder Block 2 with more on order, and 12 on order Super Tucano aircraft, 24 M346 FAs and other, helicopter gunships, armed attack drones, and military transport aircrafts. Starting from the 1960s to date, this force has left its mark for being an important peacekeeper in Africa, and its air force has contributed massively to this mission. Number 4. South African Air Force. With a military budget of $4.9 billion and 213 warplanes in their arsenal, the South African Air Force is ranked 4th strongest and a force to reckon with in Africa. The South African Air Force, SAAF, which was established on 1st February 1920 with headquarters at Pretoria, has seen service in World War II and the Korean War. From 1966, the SAAF was involved in providing infantry support in a low-intensity war, the border war in Angola, Southwest Africa, and Rhodesia. But as the war progressed, the intensity of air operations increased as the SAAF were compelled to fly fighter missions against Angolan aircraft in order to maintain tactical air superiority. The SAAF is amongst the most equipped air forces in Africa, and there was a time when they had up to 6 nuclear weapons before it was dismantled in 1991 after signing the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Number 3. Ethiopian Air Force. Talk of manpower, budget and equipment. The Ethiopian Air Force ETAF is king with a defense budget of $340 million, 3,000 plus personnel and up to 80 aircrafts. The Ethiopian Air Force is ranked the 3rd strongest air force in Africa in 2021. The Ethiopian Air Force is the Air Force of Ethiopia and a branch of Ethiopian National Defense Forces, which is tasked with protecting the national airspace, providing the support to ground forces, as well as assisting civil operations during national emergencies. Getting into this prestigious service is as tough as it is satisfying when you accept it. With the world-class equipment, huge budget and personnel, they have proven over time that they are not a force to reckon with. Number 2. Algerian Air Force. Located in the north of Africa, Algeria is a nation of strong defense force which spends heavily on its military, and according to recent statistics, they have the largest military budget in Africa. The Algerian Air Force, the area arm of the Algerian People's Military, has done nothing short of excellence when it comes to protecting the country and its allies. Although they are experiencing several turbulent times, like the Sukhoi Su-30 fighter jet crashed on January 28, 2020 in the mountains, which resulted in 2 deaths, and a CH-4 medium-altitude long-endurance UAV crash on the 25th of June 2020, the Air Force is beaten only by one in the entire continent, as it is the 2nd strongest air force in Africa. Number 1. Egyptian Air Force. Moving over to the king of military defenses is what most African countries have done when it comes to Egypt, as they have the strongest in Africa and the world, which is why it comes as no surprise that Egypt has the strongest air force in Africa. According to Yuval Steins, the former chair of Israel's Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, the Egyptian Air Force has more warships, modern anti-aircraft batteries, artilleries, Western tanks, and modern fighter planes than Israel's defense forces. They have up to 1,100 aircrafts in their inventory, most of which are sorted from different countries around the world, while some are built in Egypt. Formed in 1932, they have played an active role in peacekeeping missions at home and abroad, with great results. There you have it, explorers. Those were the top 10 strongest air forces in Africa 2021. Thanks for watching this video, and if you did enjoy this video, do want to give it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe and share with your friends.